Well, as we've been reporting, two teenage boys are being treated for critical injuries after a shooting in North York Sunday afternoon, and the Toronto Youth Cabinet says more needs to be done to make material change on behalf of young people in the city.
With a closer look at this, we're joined live now by Stephen Mensah, the Executive Director of the Toronto Youth Cabinet. Stephen, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm not sure if you got a chance to listen to that police press conference on the shootings that happened on Father's Day over the weekend, but they keep saying that the violence from guns stems from the import of firearms from the United States. Is there something more to that? Is there gang action going on? What are we not seeing here?
Yeah, I think, just using the example of just saying that it's due to illegal imports and things of that sort, I'd say that also plays a part. However, we got to really focus at the root of the issues. Many of the gun violence that we see in Toronto, it's occurring by young people. The gun violence in Toronto is trending younger and younger. And so it really bears the question, what do we need to do to address the root causes of youth violence and better the conditions of young people. Now, and to be frank, when we talk about handgun bans and bail and all these other other things that need to be done, it's like we ignore the real issue. Young people cannot access meaningful employment. Young people are living in poverty. Their housing situation is precarious, and by ignoring those issues and trying to have band-aid solutions to address the problem, it's not going to help anyone in this city.
Stephen, the news release that's out from your cabinet today, highlights the fact there are more than 620,000 youth across, the city of Toronto here. And, you use the example of this 15 and 16-year-olds who were injured this weekend as yet another example of neglect on the part of our city government to properly address this issue. And you go on to say youth are tired and to say not enough is being done to do the job that actually needs to be done. So what, in your opinion, in the Toronto Youth Cabinet's opinion, Stephen, needs to be done and needs to be done now?
Yeah, just this past weekend, I was in Scarborough partaking in a youth forum, and young people said in the clearest terms possible that, like you said, enough is not being done. And so young people, like I said, they need meaningful employment. Toronto has the worst youth employment rate in all of Ontario, and I believe one of the worst in Canada. When we talk about their education life, young people are going to school and they're not receiving the right support. So their teachers, there's many issues with teachers. When we talk about their housing situation, there's a state of repair in Toronto community housing that is affecting young people. Young people are unable to learn and study at home. When we talk about investments, the Youth Development Unit in the City of Toronto, the amount of money they request every budget season, I don't believe they even get it. However, Toronto were willing to put $300 million towards FIFA. And Nick, don't get me wrong, I'm a soccer fan. However, what are our priorities? Show me your budget and it will show me your priorities. And time again, the City of Toronto has not put young people at the forefront, and we're on the wayside and we're struggling. And right now, what we're seeing with the violence and the fact that violence in Toronto has been trending younger and younger, that is due to decades of neglect, and we've created the circumstances that we're in right now, unfortunately.
Stephen, what can the government do to help youth affected by gun violence in certain areas of the city? I'm sure, different areas, different demographics are affected in a different way. Would the implementation of more kind of grassroots sports programs help, for example? We always hear that sports, you get young people involved in sports, that can help turn things around for them. What's kind of the alternative for them?
Yeah, and as I've said already with the employment piece, young people need jobs, access to meaningful employment, to in respects like what you said, better community programs and better programming in our city, and I think investing in grassroots youth organizations, because there are young people in our city, across the city, doing great work, and we need to really put a lot of money into it. And I think I really want to emphasize the need for long-term, predictable and sustainable funding, because tossing $200,000 or $100,000 for 2 months for the summer, and then neglecting young people for 10 months out of the year, that is not going to create a healthy community. And our young people deserve to live in healthy communities. I really want to piggyback or say one thing that our superintendent said in the press conference about Toronto being a safe city. And I'd argue with that, because when we have to speak to families and speak to young people in many of our communities, they will not go and play in their park downstairs past a certain time, but past 4 p.m. They're at home. Why? Because they're afraid. And so this whole notion of Toronto as a safe city, maybe it's safe. It's safe for one group. it's not safe for another group. And I think we really need to acknowledge that, you know, really acknowledge our own privilege and really just start having these open and honest conversations as to what can we do to ensure all of you know, Torontonians are able to live in a healthy community, in a safe community where they're able to thrive and reach their full potential, which young people want. They really want, but our government needs to step up and provide them with the support. And the Toronto Youth Cabinet has been long calling for this.
And Stephen, you used the word conversation, and an essential part of conversation is listening as well. And as I'm listening to you talk to us this afternoon, it sounds to me like that the city leaders at various levels or departments or whatever just aren't really listening to you. You have the facts, you're bringing cases to them, but it sounds to me like no one's really listening or hearing. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, yes, it's definitely a fair assessment. I think to even go further, you know, we tend to have all these youth forums and youth consultations, and we say we're listening to young people, but we're not. Like, to be frank, in the simplest terms, young people are tired of the platitudes and the nice words. Like, now is the time for urgent action. And young people, like I said, at the youth forum I was at in Scarborough this weekend, they know what needs to be done. They need jobs. They're unable to get jobs. They have the solutions as to what can better their experience, but it just goes through one year and out the other. And it's just very tiring. There's an urgent need to address this problem before it gets worse, before more of our young people continue to fall victim to this epidemic of gun violence. And I think, honestly, until it starts affecting some communities that are not known for having gun violence, we're not going to take action on this. And I remember giving a deputation at Toronto City Hall about this, is that, because it's not affecting certain groups, we're ignoring the issue. But it's a problem. It's really a problem. It's really a problem.
Yeah, Stephen, while we're being blunt here, is this a socioeconomic race issue?
I'd argue yes. I mean, when we look at the demographics and groups of individuals who are falling victim to this epidemic of gun violence, we see the disparities, even disparities amongst the youth population. What groups of young people are falling victims? Which of our communities are falling victims? And I think to even go further, when we talk about this whole, we need a handgun ban, or as if the guns being used by criminals are even legal. And when we talk about bail, and we need stricter punishment. For sure, let's have all those conversations. However, let's have those conversations after the fact. Let's actually put in the work to deal with the issue upstream. And once we do that, then let's start having conversations as to, okay, is this working? Is this not working? But the thing is, we've neglected to have the conversations of what needs to be done upstream to better the conditions of young people. And yeah, we're gonna, be reactive and propose all these other quote unquote changes that are gonna harm the same socioeconomic groups that we claim we want to better support. It's not right.
Yeah, let's hope people are listening to this conversation this afternoon. Then Stephen Mensah from the Toronto Youth Cabinet. Always appreciate the time and perspective. Thanks for being here.